It's great to be back with another episode of What We Wish Our Parents Knew. Today, I'm sure we have another interesting question. So, Francisca, let's hear it.
I'm crushing on my cousin.
Who, you?
No, not me.
For a second, I thought it was you. Okay, so who are we talking about?
Female.
Female, how old?
14.
14. Okay, so 14-year-old teenage girl is crushing on her cousin. Parents, for those of you who do not really know what crush is, crush means that she has feelings for her cousins. Let me try and break this down. Is there anything wrong in a 14-year-old having crushes? Nope. We all have crushes. What we do with those crushes is a different story. Who we have those crushes on is a different story. Now, let me try and stick to the subject matter. She says she's crushing on her cousin. It would be interesting to know how distant the relationship is. Are we talking first cousin? Or are we talking Niger style cousin, where you're from the same village, or you're not even from the same village at all, but your mom's best friend somehow has a son that you really, really like, and because you've done a lot of things together, holidays and all, you just say, okay, it's my cousin Sha. That is really not your cousin. To stick and to just put perspective, to put the question in proper perspective, I'm assuming that we're talking about a real cousin, probably a first cousin. Culturally, it is considered a taboo to have any romantic affiliation with a relative or a close relative, and a first cousin will fall into the category of a close relative. From a religious perspective, it is also considered an abomination in major religions that we follow in Nigeria. However, there are some families and some cultures that find absolutely nothing wrong with it, and some of the reasons include they want to keep the wealth in the family, and therefore they just tend to intermarry. I do not know what your culture is, I do not know what your values are, but it is important that your child knows what your culture is and what your values are. It's also important that we highlight what the pros and cons of getting into a relationship, a romantic relationship with a close relative. But before I even get into that, I'm alarmed at the rise in the number of incestuous episodes that are taking place these days. Hardly does a week pass without you hearing about a father sleeping with his daughter, a mother sleeping with her son, even though those are a lot fewer incidences, or you find out that an uncle is raping his niece, an auntie, the nephew, and all that. It is wrong. If we look at it morally, it is wrong and it should be discouraged. We should stand up against it and we should speak out against it. Back to this 14-year-old girl. You're a parent and somehow you find out that your child is interested in her cousin. What should you do? Confirm that those suspicions are actually correct. Once you do, you need to have a conversation with her. Now, I always advocate for proactive parenting. Why? Because prevention, they say, is better than cure. So how can you be proactive in this instance? Letting your children know which relationships are out of bounds. And like we know, a lot of things are happening at much younger ages this day. So don't say, okay, I will tell them when they are 18 or when they're 20 something. Or you wait until your child who has been in a relationship with somebody now comes home and says, this is the person I want to marry. And then that is the time you say, we just found out that the person is your cousin. It doesn't work that way. So be proactive. Talk to them about relationships. Talk to them about the kind of relationships that are out of bounds, based on your culture, based on your religion, based on the law. And that will cover a whole gamut of things, including same-sex relationships and all that. It's from the place of conversation that these issues come out. Having had that conversation, let us assume that a relationship has already started brewing. It's important that you find how you can help your child call off the relationship. Now, matters of the heart can be a bit difficult. So it's not going to be something that would be easy depending on how far the relationship has gone. It's also not something that you can break off by saying, God forbid, it's not your portion. That's not it. If your child's heart is involved, you need a bit more than that. Pray, yes, definitely prayer has been known to work wonders, like I always say. Pray about it, but also help your child take practical steps in breaking up that relationship. Why? Because the cons of being in close family relationships is a lot higher than the pros. What are some of the cons? In the event that that relationship escalates and gets to a point where they've probably gotten married and offsprings begin to emerge from the relationship, studies have shown that there are some birth defects that can be traced to the fact that it is the same bloodline that is flowing in both parents. That's one. Two, the awkwardness of the family. Imagine having to go on a family holiday and because there was a relationship that had happened between your child and a cousin and it has gone sour. There's so much awkwardness. And with things like this, people tend to blame. They look for who to blame. So inadvertently, you're probably starting a family feud because some children have liked themselves and you hadn't even spoken to them about it. So we must keep the conversations going. As I keep saying, in the 21st century, the greatest tool that you have is communication, and it is important that we do whatever we must to keep those lines open. Until we come your way next time with another episode of What We Wish Our Parents Knew, please keep reinforcing values. Please keep the lines of communication open.